Hello and welcome to India Votes here on France 24. I'm Delano D'Souza and we're coming to you from New Delhi, where the political sands have failed to shift. Narendra Modi securing a crushing defeat over the Congress party in today's election, returning him to power for the next 5 years.
The ceremony was over in less than 15 minutes, but it was a defining moment in Narendra Modi's nascent political career. In 1992, the then secretary of the BJP's Gujarat unit joins then party president Murli Manohar Joshi on a protest march across India. It ended with the hoisting of an Indian flag in the heart of Srinagar, the summer capital of war-torn Indian Kashmir. To some, it was an act of provocation, but for Modi, it was the start of a long struggle to redefine India's national identity. Modi joined India's main Hindu nationalist party, the BJP, in 1987. He quickly rose through the ranks, becoming Gujarat's chief minister in 2001. He was accused of doing little to stop the religious riots that broke out a year later, when more than 1,000 people, mostly Muslims, were killed. For years, Modi was a political pariah, vilified at home and shunned by the West. His rehabilitation came years later when he was credited with improving Gujarat's economy, helping to turn the western state into an industrial powerhouse. Modi became Prime Minister in 2014 after the BJP won a surprise majority in Parliament. Trying to present himself as a moderate, he campaigned on a pledge to restore growth and bring development for all.
The people of this country have given their verdict. And that verdict tells us that we need to take India forward.
Modi has since been accused of stoking divisions between India's Hindu majority and the country's 200 million Muslims. His record on the economy is mixed. GDP per capita has increased by more than 35%, but unemployment is at a 45-year high, and there has been little improvement for the poor, especially in rural communities. These issues, though, were largely absent from the campaign, with Hindu nationalism being once again at the heart of Modi's election strategy. The recent military escalation with Pakistan gave him and his party a major boost, Modi casting himself as the only leader able to defend India from its enemies.
To talk more about the BJP's victory, we can speak to Rajat Sethi, member of the BJP's campaign. Thank you very much for joining us here on France 24. Firstly, congratulations are in order. Were you expecting such a victory for the BJP?
Thank you so much. Bonjour to all the viewers in France. We were absolutely expecting this victory, but the kind of love and blessings that the people of India have showered on the BJP, and more so on Prime Minister Narendra Modi, has been spectacular. And this is truly an unprecedented victory. It's sheer on the number of scale and the number of seats that the BJP has won today. We have broken our 2014 records, and I think this is a historic moment. Truly, in the past 5-6 decades, we haven't seen such a huge mandate being given to one single party.
Were you expecting such a heavy, defeat over the opposition?
Well, there hasn't been much of a narrative from the opposition so far as we have seen and in our analysis. So we were quite confident that the opposition isn't ready for such a big battle. Whereas Prime Minister Modi, throughout his 5 years, has always been on campaign mode. He's always been between the people, trying to understand their concerns, and that has paid dividend.
Yeah, but Prime Minister Narendra Modi may have this hefty win on his hands today, but India's still a divided country. How is he going to unify India?
Well, if you see, speaking about his 5 years of tenure as a prime minister, no organized Hindu-Muslim riots has happened. So he has been very categorical in giving signals to any kind of lumpens in general.
Yeah, but Rajat, Muslims are being killed on suspicion of slaughtering cows or eating beef.
Well, India is a 1.3 billion country. There are a few stray incidents in which Prime Minister himself had to step in and say that this is absolutely not acceptable. And since law and order is not a center subject, it is the state governments which have to deal with it. And he has said that though center cannot intervene in law and order issue, it is my strong message to all the state governments that they need to act in the harshest possible ways on these stray incidents that are happening.
Because in a tweet he put out just a couple of hours ago, he said, he spoke about an inclusive country. How important is that for the BJP?
Well, I mean, India is a diverse country, and no party, no matter what, historically can claim to be exclusive in nature. Therefore, BJP and what it stands for has always been about inclusive. The Western media for a very long time hasn't been able to even academically understand what the BJP has stood for. And this is the reason why we see a lot of articles in various Western media have tried to say that he's a Hindu nationalist leader. But Hinduism should not be seen as a limited religious concept. There is no word religion in India. There is a dharma. Dharma cannot be equated with religion. Therefore, the definitions of words like secular and all do not fit into the Indian scenario.
But Rajat, he surrounds himself with people who are Hindu nationalists, people who, like the Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh, who believes that, India is a country for Hindus, not for Muslims, not for Christians. What do you say to that?
Well, that's exactly what I'm trying to explain, that Hinduism should not be seen limited from a religious sense. Hinduism should be seen as a cultural construct. And we've always been saying that Hindu for us will remain a cultural context, not a dogmatic religious context.
Fine.
That's where the thin line is, which we need to appreciate.
Sorry to cut you off, but finally from you, Narendra Modi failed to address a lot of the issues during the campaign, like the economy, like the high unemployment rate. How does he go about fixing these problems now?
Well, economy is always a changing terrain, and because of the global issues, there are nationalistic governments around, and you will see that the US and China are engaging in trade wars, and therefore our exports have also been hit. So I'm sure that Prime Minister Modi, the way he's been working at, he's going to continue looking at economy. And one thing that we need to keep in mind is that he does not put the elitist mindset when he's trying to address the problems. He has a very clear mindset wherein the poor have the priority. Poor have the first right on the resources of this country. That's where Prime Minister is different from a lot of his predecessors. And that's where he's going to add more value.
Rajat Sethi, thank you very much for joining us on the program today. Thank you. That was Rajat Sethi, a member of the BJP's campaign, speaking to us here on France 24. Now, as I was asking Rajat, Prime Minister Narendra Modi failed to address many of the issues like the economy during this long campaign for India's election. To talk more about that, we can bring in Dilip Chenoy, Secretary General of FICCI, the Federation of Indian Chambers on Commerce and Industry. Thank you very much for joining us on the program today. Now, what does the business community want to see from the Prime Minister over the next 5 years?
So if you look at the business community and their requirement over the next few years, I think the first thing that everybody looks at, the great work done on the ease of doing business should now be on reducing the cost of doing business. The second is that in the first 5 years, he worked a lot into cleaning up the banking system and getting the whole system into place. Now we need to see greater capital flow, greater lending to the industry so that you can actually raise investments and go forward. Now, of course, the great work being done in infrastructure, enabling infrastructure to go on, and the work that started in taking the GST, simplifying it, make it much more easier for compliance. Then, on the other hand, there are a number of bills that were not passed last time, the data protection bill, the Aadhaar bill. There are such bills which are ready for going, new policies that were pending, the new industrial policy, the new e-commerce policy. So there are a set of 10 to 12 bills and 8 to 10 policies which, if we address in the first few days of this government, it will actually transform the whole ecosystem for business in India going forward.
Mr. Modi has been dubbed good for business. Is he good for business?
So, yes, he is good for business in the sense that what business really wants is a stable, predictive government going forward. So, I think that way, although the history might say that, there have been different reforms that have even been done in coalition governments and all, but I think a stable, predictive government, and very interestingly, unlike last time, this time the BJP manifesto actually talks what they're going to do sector by sector, area by area. If they can even just focus on that and implement it, he'll be really, really good for business.
Now, I want to ask you, because over the past 5 years, we've seen policies from the Modi administration that have basically shot the Indian economy in the foot. I'm talking about demonetization, which the Indian economy is still recovering from. How long will that take?
Well, I think you've seen the impact of demonetization really bottom out. See, what actually happened, a lot of the Indian economy was going unreported, within and outside the system. And the combination of demonetization and GST has brought some of it into the system. But the problem with demonetization was we could not get a digital payment process in place. And there was issues on the whole process of exchanging notes and all, and it took longer than what was anticipated. As a concept, it was good. But the way it was implemented perhaps could have been better. But I think we are over the hump there as far as the impact on the economy of that sector goes. But also, he's really driven consumption by the investment in infrastructure, by doing the housing projects, doing the gas projects and the pipeline. So a lot of things has happened there, driving growth.
Now, during Mr. Modi's first term, one of the first things he did was his Make in India initiative. What would you like to see him do this time around?
So I think if you take the Make in India initiative, we need a Make in India 2.0, right? Which we actually focus on making manufacturing a $1 trillion economy, getting a $5 trillion digital economy going, and making the whole sector. So the digitization process, the focus on new technologies like artificial intelligence and virtual reality, and getting the whole e-space going again will be a great flip, because the e-NAM project, the agriculture project, there's some reforms that he needs to do to agriculture because agriculture has been distressed. If that happens, then the whole economy will change.
Dilip Chenoy, thank you very much for joining us here on France 24. That was Dilip Chenoy of FICCI speaking to us here on France 24. Now, the opposition Congress party has been decimated for the second time around. Rahul Gandhi failing in his efforts to convince the Indian population that he is the right man to become Prime Minister. Take a listen to what he had to say earlier.
I want to say that today is not the day for me to go into the details of this mandate. Today is the day that a new Prime Minister has been elected, and today is the day to wish him all the best, and to hopefully he will look after the interest of this country.
Earlier, I spoke to the spokesperson of the Congress party, Salman Anisaz, and asked him what went wrong for the Congress. Take a listen.
That is something for the party leadership to actually now sit and kind of go through, the details of the election results and see how the BJP managed to get such a big mandate again, and why we were not able to win the confidence of the people. But the work for us is really cut out. I mean, we have a lot of work ahead of us, and it must start today.
To talk more about what went wrong for the Congress party, we can bring in Tehseen Poonawala, somebody who watches the Congress party very closely and a political trend watcher. Thank you very much for joining us on the program today. What, in your opinion, went wrong for the Congress party?
If you were to ask me in one word, the messaging. I think the messaging of the Congress party just did not get down to the viewers. I think that is what went wrong for the Congress party.
How do they fix it?
To start communicating better, to start understanding what the audience is, and to start reimposing faith in loyalists rather than getting people from outside to contest on the party symbol.
But you're talking about loyalists, so more of the same, more of Rahul Gandhi, more of sons of?
No, when I say loyalist, I mean people who work their way up from the grassroots. Let me give you an example since you cover India. Patna was a seat where they got in Shatrughan Sinha. Now, I personally know of an old Congress loyalist who's very keen to contest and who had a good chance with the alliance. You got Shatrughan Sinha, and what value does Shatrughan Sinha bring to you? And then if Shatrughan Sinha, who stands with the earlier BJP that broke down a mosque, is now your symbol for secularism, what is your messaging? So you've got your messaging wrong, you've got your communication wrong, and you've got your candidates wrong.
You were talking about the messaging. What was wrong with the messaging of the Congress party this time around? Because I thought that Rahul Gandhi did a good job, because he said, there are two versions of India. You can either have one, a divisive version, or one that unifies. What was wrong with that?
Rahul Gandhi was the only person contesting this election. He got no support from anybody else in the Congress party. I think the communication of the Congress party of what Rahul Gandhi wanted to articulate did not go down to the people. For example, I think the Rafale message was completely wrong. It simply, at some point, should have ended.
Just to get our viewers up to speed, you're talking about the watchman is a thief messaging, the slogan, essentially, of the campaign.
More than the slogan of the campaign, I think rather than... Had you stuck to an industrialist getting the contract and ending it there, that would have gone down, rather than accusing the government. When you started getting in data saying, look, this is working with people, and I think that data misled you. Number two, from Rafale, you went to the Nyay scheme, where you said we're going to give justice to everybody. Messaging, and I understand messaging, I'm in corporate sector, cannot be vague. When you say I'm giving justice to anybody, my opponent will turn around and say, what about people you've been unjust to? And you get caught. Why would you give a vague message? The message should be precise. So Rahul was precise. The Congress was not clear on what it wanted.
Should Rahul Gandhi continue to lead the Congress party going forward?
Absolutely. Only Rahul Gandhi can lead the Congress, but Rahul Gandhi needs to change his advisors. He has a bunch of bumpkins and a bunch of jokers around him. These guys have no idea, including some of his father's friends like Mr. Petroda, including the communications head, Mr. Surjewala. These are jokers. They have no idea of what works. They are out of touch with reality, and they don't carry forward Rahul's ideas. If Rahul's lieutenants don't carry forward his idea, how will the message go?
But people criticize the Congress party, saying it's a party filled with the sons of people, whose fathers have been something. Is it a time that the Congress party should change now, looking at the next election 5 years from now?
It needs to. That is something that it needs to work on. Not to say that the BJP is not dynastic or there isn't dynasty in other political parties. There is absolute dynasty in other political parties. It just is that the Congress dynasty comes across as more arrogant. Let me give you another example. Jyotiraditya Scindia. He lost. But why was he in the US after the elections? I know it was his son's graduation. I understand that. But politics is about perception. And he's a very nice guy. But you see, the perception doesn't come out right. And that's where you lose the battle.
Now, you're a political trend watcher. I want to ask you about the narrative in this election, because we had the Prime Minister who successfully changed the narrative to issues of national security. What do you say about that? What does it say about the Indian voter?
What it says about the Congress party is, after so many years, the Congress party did not understand the Indian voter. This election, the Prime Minister fought on two issues. One was national security. The other, was national security wrapped in about some sort of a communal agenda. And the other was development. We never understood what development meant. When the Prime Minister spoke about toilets, etc., he was talking about his version of development. The only messaging the Congress party should have done to counter that was speak about the GDP growing, the GDP data fudged, no jobs and economy. The minute the Congress started fighting the Prime Minister on issues of religion and national security, it was a losing battle. You should not have fought the battle on the Prime Minister's pitch. You should have fought the battle on your pitch, which is the economy is at the moment in a soup. And that is your battle, and that was your messaging.
But they did say that he's driven the economy off the cliff. They did speak about demonetization. They did speak about the bad implementation of the GST.
Of course, they spoke about demonetization and the bad implementation of the GST, but they also spoke about issues that gave the Prime Minister the idea to play victim. You see, the Prime Minister is at his best when he plays the victim card rather than when he's aggressive. So Indians love the strong man, but this strong man becomes a strong man by playing the victim card. They should not have let him play the victim card, because that was allowing him to attack the neighbors. They should have just kept on saying questions on job, economy, demonetization, GST and other. They should have gone deeper into it. They should have had an economic vision which should have been spelled out more correctly, rather than falling into issues of national security. National security, the Prime Minister could have kept talking on it. You should have spoken jobs.
So what about Narendra Modi now? Because he has this stunning victory today. But how does he unify the country? Because India is still a country divided. Many people are not happy.
Many people are not happy. But he's been elected, he's been legally elected, and you got to accept that mandate. If Mr. Narendra Modi can reach out to everybody, and I just don't mean Muslims, I mean everybody. There have been sections of people, there have been alternate sexual identities, there have been people from the lower caste who feel let out in this government. His slogan is Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, which translates to for everybody and progress for everybody. If he can actually reach out to those people, and sort of give the healing touch, I think these 5 years could take India to another dimension.
If you have any advice to give the Prime Minister, what would it be?
He is now the Prime Minister of the country. He has for the last 5 years been the Prime Minister of the country, but also the Prime Minister of his ruling party, the BJP. And his campaign brings out the worst in the post of the Prime Minister. And I'll give a small example. He accused the former Prime Minister, former Vice President, and former Army Chief of conspiring with the neighboring country to bring down his government. In Parliament, they apologized for that. You know, sometimes, once the glass cracks, no matter what you do, the crack will always remain. Let's not crack it. You won a great election. Come back and heal people. I think people are looking for a healing touch.
Do you think he has it?
I don't want to prejudge him. I did prejudge that. He has surprised me on certain things, not in a good way. For example, I think economically he's been very socialist, something I think he wouldn't have been. So he's a man who surprises. I hope here he surprises me in a good way.
Yasin Poonawalla, thank you very much for joining us on the program.
Thank you so much.
And that wraps up this edition of India Votes. From all of us on the team over in Paris and here in New Delhi, thank you very much for watching.